Days it took to dig it out, clean it. We couldn't keep it.
Cornu Ammonus?
Ammonite.
Your skills are legendary.
I was under the impression that fine London gentlemen were no longer interested in my relics. Fashion moved on.
My wife hasn't been at all well of late. What a wonderful opportunity it would be for her to walk the shoreline with you, learn from you.
I'm not looking for an apprentice.
I would be able to pay a premium for a private audience.
Your husband paid me to take you out with me.
My husband...
Your husband left you.
I don't want to be alone. You seemed to do everything you could to be distant. She's unlocked something in you.
Aloha! This is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man. And Thursday night, I had the opportunity to see a wonderful movie called Ammonite. And now, I went ahead and I saw this. This was showing for quite some time, a couple of weeks already, over at Ward Warehouse's Consolidated Theaters. I saw it on the last evening that it was being shown, and I'm sorry that I did, because I wish I had seen it sooner to let you know about it. Remember our rating scale, shock a thumbs up. It's good to see, I recommend it. Shock a thumbs down, it's bad to see, it's junk, I don't recommend it. And, well, as you might have already guessed, for Ammonite, it is already a shock a thumbs up. Yes, I did enjoy this movie. The reason I didn't go see it was because I didn't think I would enjoy it. You know, this stars Kate Winslet of Titanic fame, and, you know, new up-and-coming young actress, Saoirse Ronan, of latest, back before the COVID-19, you know, really took place, was for Little Women, in the starring role in that. Saoirse is really a fine actress, a very pretty girl, well, I guess now woman, and, you know, both her youth and, you know, her the misidentified innocence and inexperience of her looks or youth play well with Kate Winslet's more mature performance in this movie. This is set in 18th century England, and Kate Winslet is sort of a paleontologist, well, what would become later paleontologists. I guess at that time it would be just simply a naturalist, would be the terminology, if she were a man and could get a title and position as such. But as a woman, despite her success in the field early on and throughout her life into her later middle years, she's been kind of stalemated to just selling off her findings for money to tourists along the coastal small town that she lives in her house with her mother as she's taking care of her. We find out that she had 8 siblings, 6 of which had died. We don't hear of what had happened to the other ones. We don't see the surviving ones in the film. But whatever has happened to them, they have left Kate and her mother there alone to pretty much fend for themselves. And Kate Winslet's character does a fine job attempting to do that through her selling of the fossils that she finds. Ammonite refers to a specific type of cephalopod you will often see in fossils, fossilized rock and stone, that is kind of a spiral shaped, kind of looks like if you were to take, the slice photograph look at your inner ear, that kind of spiral looking with hairs or tentacles reaching out, kind of like a worm-like kind of creature that's usually always coiled up in these fossils. She has found dinosaur fossils as well, and thus that's why I refer to her as a paleontologist, more so than, just what is commonly referred to as her as just being a novelty saleswoman to tourists on this coastal town. She'll often every morning go out to the seaside and look and see what seashells, what rocks might have washed up from the oceans, to see what she might find within them, what fossilized creatures. And it is one of these prospective naturalists that come and seek her aid in training, a gentleman with a wife who seems to have recently lost their son, their young baby apparently, played by Saoirse Ronan, is the wife of this gentleman. He has, he spends some time with Kate Winslet learning on the seashore of looking for fossils, what to look for, as he has an appointment to go overseas, abroad, to do some type of excavation, for such duties, which is why he looked to refine his skills a little bit more before heading out over there. His wife is not well, classic depression after losing a son, losing a baby, of course misdiagnosed, just some type of malaise is suspected with her. And, sea air, healthy activities, walks along the beach is what their physician prescribes for Saoirse Ronan. And he asks Kate Winslet's character, he offers to pay her to watch his wife for her. And thus the two become intertwined. Basically, her, Kate Winslet's responsibility to care for this person, who very much doesn't want to be there. She, of course, wants to go with her husband, but her husband has lost faith in her, basically has shunned her since she, he blames her for the loss of their child. Perhaps some type of neglect. Certainly nothing that it looks that it was any foul play by Saoirse Ronan. So left alone to their own devices, eventually, just after following her on the beach, walking along, she becomes more entwined into Kate Winslet's and her mother's lives there at the house, actually taking some interest in the fossils, in the Ammonite findings as well, and helps her with her sales in the shop. where Kate is somewhat depressed and dour. She is not a salesman for her goods. She likes to find them, and if it was up to her, she would keep everything that she found. But her mother and her needs money, and thus that's the only reason she sells them. She is most at joy finding these things and excavating them, and drawing and writing in her journal what she finds, and classifying them, as any naturalist at that time would do, without, unfortunately, the pay or the prestige. Saoirse Ronan gets ill, falls ill, and Kate Winslet's character cares for her, brings her back, nurses her back to life, and basically more of a tighter, closer bond is formed between the two women. Saoirse Ronan kind of remarks that you treat me like your child, of which Kate says she never had any children. And we find out that she had never married or had any close relations with any men. Yeah, and we think that's just to her preference to be alone and be more withdrawn, always throwing herself into her work is her excuse. And although that is her passion, she is also, we find and come to discover, more so drawn to the same sex. And it is a passion that is ignited within Kate Winslet's character that draws her even closer to Saoirse Ronan. And after such neglect, physical neglect from her husband, Saoirse Ronan is more than happy to have someone who cares and meets her physical needs as well. So the two form almost a, what would seem a teenage romance. And I have to say that this is, they really both go for it. Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan really go for it in one scene in particular in this movie. I mean, there are some where there's some heavy petting, some kissing, but there is one major sex scene in the middle that, is reminiscent of Kate Winslet in Titanic. We see that same amount of nudity, her breasts, and far much more nudity from Saoirse Ronan than I have seen, than anything I think she's been in. Full buttocks shot, some side boob. But yes, but you can tell that both women definitely throw themselves in this role. And if it was any two actors, I don't think it would work quite as well, and you would fail to sense, the emotional bond that these two women find in one another. Love, essentially. Being a straight man, it's kind of, I find it a little difficult to talk about these terms, both in the fact that I'm not experienced in that type of thing, but also, in today's society, what right do I have to make opinions or statements about such a relationship? But this movie allows you to infer such things through these two characters and their relationship that forms this bond, this love, and unfortunately how they have to be split apart as her husband summons her once again back to London once he has returned from his archaeological duties. Maybe about a year later, Saoirse Ronan writes to Kate Winslet character after her mother has passed. She's all alone. The shop seems to be in decline, because her mother would often sell and keep the shop open to sell what she finds while she's out looking for that. And without her there, the shop's closed and that lack of income, even though Kate Winslet may be continuing to look for more Ammonite, more fossils to sell, just to survive. But it seems that Saoirse Ronan's character has not gotten any further with her husband. She states in the letter that her husband's focus is on work and he has his duties and position, and that is what takes up most of his time. Possibly even some affairs, some mistresses on the side, we do not know. But for the time period, that is most likely. And she invites Kate Winslet's character to visit her in London and eventually to move in with her, which is very off-putting to Kate Winslet, as she is such a independent person. She at first rails against the presumption that Saoirse Ronan would make, that she needs to be taken care of, that she's some invalid, that she didn't want to be like her mother, I suppose, in that respect. Still a very independent and strong-willed person. It just seemed like all the decisions it seemed to Kate Winslet that all the decisions of the rest of her life was being made by Saoirse Ronan. And although Saoirse Ronan does so out of love and desire to be with her, we can tell that it is her inexperience in relationships that has led her to make this mistake, and which is the first rocky road that they have to face together to get over this. I think the movie ends rather well. The two of them are looking over some of her work in the London Museum, some of the fossils that she had found in her youth, a large dinosaur that she had submitted, and what had given her some fame back in the day. And I think, without it being said, I think she has acknowledged, as she glances at Saoirse Ronan's character, and Saoirse glances at Kate, that they've come to an acknowledgement that yes, she'll stay there. But other than that, it is kind of left up in the air, and it could be either way. But I would like to think, and I think enough is presented there, that they have come to terms with their situation, and if not living there permanently with Saoirse Ronan's character, then definitely to be visiting frequently for long stretches, I think, is the way that I'd like to think of how this movie ends, past the credits. So, but again, it is up to your interpretation like that. But overall, it is a shock of thumbs up. It's a very touching and tender love story between two people. Yes, two women, same sex, which definitely at the time of the 18th century was very taboo. But I think that you should definitely approach this movie with an open mind. It's unfortunate it's no longer in theaters, perhaps where you are, but here in Hawaii it's left, and I think you'll be able to see it streaming within the next 2 months or so, and probably video on demand or Redbox within the next month. So definitely keep an eye out for it. Called Ammonite, starring Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan. I gotta say, Saoirse Ronan, I really, she's really come out of left field for me. She's a really fine actress. Her and Elizabeth Pugh, I think, whatever her name is, were in Little Women, and both impressed me, and both are making great leaps and bounds in the entertainment business. And I look forward to seeing what other movies they do. And of course, Kate Winslet is always a charm to see. And, you know, playing off another incredible actress. It's just a joy and a splendor to watch. So go ahead and check it out any way you can. Keep an eye out for it on your streaming service. It may pop up there sooner, especially in these COVID days. Again, shaka thumbs up all the way for Ammonite. Please do yourself a favor and see it. All right, thank you so much. This is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man, saying mahalo and aloha.